Can I ask a quick question? This is
Yeah.
Eric.
Okay. Okay.
Does the verbiage we see in the assessments or even in the practice problems, does it coincide with what the author of the text uses, or is it a little different?
Well, I think there will be some differences, and so it probably depends. I could point to passages in our main text where they use reservation price. I don't know if they use limit price. And so yeah, when I select the problems, I have choices. And so um, I feel if I'm something I'm going to mention in lecture, that's a good place. I don't let you guys fly blind. Um, so I don't think you'll have to worry about it too much. But the reason why I choose the ones that I do is because even if it turns out in the particular text that we're using that they don't use that language, it's almost sure as guys go on in the upper division, you read in different texts that you'll encounter that language someplace. Maybe it'll be because I mean, obviously we're dealing with um, microeconomics in labor and environmental and public finance and every place. So some authors might use one particular term and others might use another one, and it's good to be familiar with the general kind of like lay of the land. But I won't ever um, use any bit of language that is very niche, that it's used in this one very obscure tiny little area, because this is really a course to introduce you to the tools that you would use in upper division economics, not some you know research area. Anyway, I hope that helps. um,
That's fine.
uh, so
I was
but
just curious, just trying to make the connection between the two. That's all.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, that's my objective. Um, but thanks for the question, and yeah, I hope my answer was a good one. So okay, so everybody should be registered on assessments. Did you guys all register successfully? I guess what I would look for is in chat, you guys saying, yeah, I registered for the
Yes.
assessments. Okay. And if there's anybody that didn't register, um,
Hello,
yeah, Daniel or
Juan.
Juan. Okay,
Yeah,
Juan.
I registered, but when I try to log in, it just says logging on. It doesn't let me go in.
Well, then you put in the wrong. Did you take a picture of
Yeah,
your password
yes,
and you're doing it all with the right case?
yes, the password, yes,
You sure?
yes, absolutely.
Because okay, well then what I would say is like log out of everything and log back in. And you did take a picture of your password because almost every single time I've gone over and I've encountered that problem with a student, the student thought they capitalized something or they didn't, and there was a slight difference in their passwords. So just double check that. I just log out of everything, log out of Micro 2, log back in, and then try again, and then get back to us. Okay, Juan?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Um, so like I said, you guys got to be careful with the passwords. Okay. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and just pause my share for a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've put in, and hopefully you guys can see, I put in my stuff there. Okay, And so notice now that I've logged in at the top, it has my first name. So when you guys log in, you should see your first name. And this is really important because, again, it's not uncommon, and you guys could think of a million different reasons, but it's not uncommon that while you're taking an assessment, something's unstable with the internet connection, or for whatever reason, you get logged out. So, you know, does everybody have their name at the top? And I know we had a little bit of an issue with Juan, but we'll come back to Juan in a minute. Okay. So anybody doesn't. Okay. So, and if you guys ever get like confused, you could just log out, click log out and log back in. And we should be good. Okay. So let me put this. So the assessment code should be 3250. And okay. And okay. Now notice I had it on sample. If I was going to take another quiz or something, then that I would have selected that first. But I'm selecting sample, and I put in 3250, and then I hit select. Okay. Okay. So, well, okay, Ryan, I'll come back to you in just a minute. But then you guys should see everything that you see here. Okay. So Juan is good. Okay. So, Ryan, do you have your mic? Ryan? Okay.
While we wait, do you want us to also type in the code and follow along?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I want you guys to see everything that I'm seeing right now, just so you guys have done it, right?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, I was having a little trouble with it. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So I'm on the Ignithium Micro 2, and I'm at home, and I see assessments and all that, but I can't seem to find where you're at.
Okay. Well, hold on just a minute.
Did you click on assessments?
Yeah, I wonder if I can.
Okay. Let me see. I'm looking for you. Okay, Ryan.
Did you subscribe? I think you have to subscribe.
Well, oh yeah, if you're not subscribed, then you're not. That's not going to work. But I assumed that you were subscribed, Ryan. Everybody should have been subscribed by now.
Manage your subscription.
Okay, so if you're not subscribed,
I'll figure it out.
then we'll move on, and then we'll come back to you. Okay.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. So, yeah. If you're not subscribed, then everything will look different, and it'll be weird. So, okay. Okay. So, so you guys should see what I'm seeing right now. And just to give you guys some ideas of what to do, let's go ahead and read through the instructions together. So log in using your assessments account. If you don't have an assessment account, so if you just follow these directions, select the appropriate assessment, which I'll tell you guys, and then enter the code. You know, if you just do it the right way, what some people do sometimes is they won't select it, they'll put in the code, then they'll hit the select button, right? So they don't do the drop down first, and then it won't say it's accepted, or maybe it'll do something weird. And if you don't follow the steps in the right order, you might end up, in a goofy situation. If that happens, don't panic, just log out. And if you have to, log all the way back out, but I don't think you'll have to, but just log out and then log back in, and then follow the steps and select the assessment and then enter the code. And then when you complete the assessment, obviously log out. Now this is a little bit more about how we'll manage things. So notice the first question is a question that doesn't make any sense, okay? And there are a lot of different reasons why that might happen. Again, in general, you guys right now should be seeing exactly what I see. Does everybody have exactly the same set
Yes.
of questions, right? You won't
Different
usually,
numbers.
yeah, the same numbers. Everybody?
I think I have different numbers.
Yeah, well, everybody should have the same numbers as me right now. Because in general, I set it up so everybody gets different numbers and they're randomly drawn. And I don't have it set up that way this morning. So the numbers should be the same, but
Well, I have something like 185, base 5, and 7 and 2.
yeah,
For the first.
yeah, that's interesting. I don't know why it did that to you, but do you have accepted here in the code area?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
I will try to log in again.
Yeah, log out and log in. So Sarah, do you have a mic this morning?
Hi, Professor. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have the same numbers as me.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what you're. Sometimes the yes is hard to interpret because I'm talking to other people and they're like, oh, different numbers, and then you say yes, and then I'm like, oh, what's it? Yes, the same, yet or not. So I was just double checking.
Yeah, my connection is bad.
Yeah, that's fine.
Maybe I'm gonna.
Yeah. Okay. As long as we're on the same page. So this morning I have a setup. Everybody should have the same numbers right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, like, for example, notice that it says that if you think that a question contains an error and you want to communicate that to me, then you should just put in the, oh, sorry, I keep typing the wrong thing, and hit submit. And then notice this, it says your submission has been recorded, right? Now, if it doesn't say your submission has been recorded, then your submission hasn't been recorded, okay? And you need to log out and log back in. The most common issue that people have is they'll open up the assessment will be idle for a while because maybe they'll be doing some work on paper or something like that, and there's no problem with that. And then they get finished with their work, but it took them a long time. And maybe something happened to the internet connection, it got unstable. And you might even see the same information up here, but you go to put in your answer and it doesn't say your submission has been recorded. Instead, it'll say, please log in. Okay. So if it says that, you got to log in again, like log out and log back in, and then put in your answers. So most of the assessments that we'll be doing, I'll give you guys about an hour to complete them within our class period. So like from 8:30 to 9:30, something like that. And yeah, you just have to make sure it says your submission's been recorded, because if your submission hasn't been recorded, you're out of luck. And the other thing too, just to let you guys know the full process, and I'll put a little announcement in Blackboard about this, is once you submit your answer on Ignithium, it's going to be scored against the Ignithium answer, and I'll show you guys how to access that information in a little while. But I also want to see your work. Okay, so what I'll want you guys to do is I'll probably open up the assessment a little bit early, or I'll keep it open a little bit later, and give you guys a chance to print the page like you normally do with your homework, and then you'll submit your written answers with your work up to Blackboard like you normally do. And obviously, you guys will need a little bit of time to do that. So, that kind of like administrative part of it is something that I won't include in your exam time. Whenever you submit answers on Ignithium, and I think you guys can actually see it, but even if you can't, I'm letting you know, all of the answers are time-stamped. Okay? And if you need to revise an answer, just put in a new answer in Ignithium. Like if you change your mind, you're like, oh, I realized I did something wrong on this question. And when I pull the data from Ignithium to give you your final grade, I'll only count your last submission. So, and then you'll notice, when we look at the other section of it, that meaning the grading portion that you can see on Ignithium, it'll actually record all of your answers. And I'm sure actually, I think the timestamp is there. So you'll be able to see what was your last answer, and you'll be able to see if Ignithium scored you correct in that last answer. One of the things that students sometimes get confused about when they look at the grading stuff is they'll put in multiple answers, and sometimes they'll put in the same answer for the question multiple times. I guess it's just because they're worried it's not getting recorded, it's not going to be on the database or something like that, and they freak out about it. So when that's the case, it'll show that you have multiple points for that question, and obviously it's just one correct answer per question. So if you try to count up your score and you're just counting the number of correct answers you have, you can't count the same question twice. So if you use common sense, you won't have any trouble figuring out, what the estimate of your grade is. But if you do something goofy, then it won't look quite right. So David, are you asking me a question? Do you have a mic?
Yeah.
So what is your question?
If I don't have access to a printer, could I send it to you like by email or something?
Well, okay, yeah. So you can do an image capture and like put them all in the Word doc, and you have access to Word. I mean, you don't have to literally print it. I don't care how you get the images to me.
Okay.
That's your part. I mean, a lot of students, they'll write their answers down on a piece of paper notebook, and then they take a picture, and then they take that PNG and they paste it into a Word document, and that's totally fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. So, so anyway, the gist of it is that you guys will see these questions, and so just so we have some data to work with, I'll give you guys, let's say it's 9 o'clock. I'll give you guys to 9:15, and you can go ahead and answer as many of these questions as you can. And then I'll come back to you guys. Okay?
For that first question, should we put in the 999?
Well, okay. So remember, it says if you believe the question contains an error, looks to me like the question has an error in it. So
okay.
Yeah, that's what I would do. And I want to tell you guys one other thing about that. And that is that what I'll also do is on some of the questions later on when Ignithium's pulling random numbers, and I'll call your attention to it. You know, sometimes it'll render incorrectly. Now, if there's just one like 999 in a whole exam, I would just, you know, normally drop that question because it's not a big deal one way or the other. But there's some questions we'll get later where it turns out, you'll notice how the questions are connected, that, you know, if you're an unlucky student, I think it's like, you know, 1 in 200, but I've seen it happen where you get like 7 questions that really can't be answered because the numbers are too goofy to answer them based on what the questions are asking. In that case, go ahead and put 999 like you would, but I also will, and this is what I normally do in class, is I'll have a printed copy of a good exam, meaning one that's all the questions are correct. And then I allow the student who got unlucky to answer the questions from the printed exam. So in your guys' case, you know, if you end up in that kind of a situation, go ahead and put 99999 in, and then I'll see it. And then when you submit your answers, I'll have a PDF like I do of the examples for the homework up on Blackboard. And I'll put that up, you know, just before the exam, on the day of the exam. And if you end up with an exam that's goofy and you want to answer those problems instead, then you can. And obviously, our check on it is that you have to turn in your exam questions and you have to respond 999. So, you know, the intention is that everybody answers their unique questions that they get when Ignithium pulls it. And if there's a problem, then yes, you have this backup alternative, but you have to show me that Ignithium goofed up on you based on, you know, like what I've seen before. And like I said, it'll be rare, but when it happens, I don't want you guys to think that, you know, you can't really proceed with the exam, or that, you know, 5 or 6 questions out of, you know, 20 are going to be excluded from calculating your score, because that's just not fair to the rest of the students that have to work through everything else. But one question is not a big deal. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. I accidentally refreshed my page. What's the assessment code again?
It's in the chat. It's 3250.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Quick question.
Sure.
So for this one, are you telling us to take screenshots of the questions and sending them to you later, or is that something we're going to do for other assessments?
No, this one doesn't matter. I mean,
Okay.
but if you guys want to play around with it, then play. You know what I mean? Because you know, part of the way of making sure that you can do these assessments effectively is, to practice this stuff. That's why we're spending, basically a whole lecture on just, how to work with this tool. Because if you don't know how to work with it, then when I give you an assessment, if that's your first time playing around with it, then, you won't know what to do.
Yeah. So just to like make sure, we're just gonna do the questions like until the allotted time is over, and then we're just gonna submit it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's I'll give you guys your hour to like do your submissions for your questions. And while you guys are doing it, I'm not going to have you guys like do it on Zoom, but I will have I will be available on Zoom in case you guys have questions while you're doing it. And actually probably, like the smart thing to do, even though like I don't want to have your cameras on to observe you, all that kind of stuff, would be for you guys to log into Zoom just so I can chat and let you guys know, okay, time's almost up and stuff like that. So you can submit your final answers, and if you guys did have a question, then you could chat with me really quickly. I'm not proctoring exactly, but I'm there for like support, while you guys are doing the exam. And so I'll go ahead and do a couple of these. So does anybody else have any questions? Has everybody able to log on properly and you guys can see what I can see? Yeah. So okay. 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 So
For questions like number 3, do you want us just to round to like the nearest whole number?
well, what's our rule?
I forgot.
Two significant digits, which means 2 decimal places.
Okay.
And listen, if you guys aren't playing around with Ignithium on the homework to kind of like get the sense of where the rounding error is, then you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. That's the reason why I have the practice open, so you guys could practice lots and lots of problems on your own, so you can get them right and see all the different versions of the problems that you could possibly see on an assessment, because the assessments are going to be random. But if you're not spending enough time doing the practice and getting hang, because remember the hints under the practice will give you the correct answer. And if you run into trouble, you can always ask me, so like we did on question 19, oh, this doesn't quite look like it's right. There's some issue here. And, but it'll also get you used to the rounding error issue. Okay, so I'm gonna and I'm gonna change the answer on this one. Oh, I hit enter instead of submit. Okay. Mm. Mhm. Okay, so I put in some right and wrong answers, um, and just to get so you guys could see. I think it's 9. It should be 9:15 now. So, does anybody have any questions for me right now before we move on? Quick questions? Anybody? No.
Are we turning any of this in as homework or anything at the end of the week, or do we have homework done that we are supposed to be turning in at the end of this week?
Good question. And you know, I think it's probably a good idea for you guys to do the sample as your homework. Okay. So you guys have the assessment code for the sample. So what we're doing right now to do this for your homework, the second homework assignment on Ignithium, I haven't put a due date for that yet, but this is a good idea just because I want to make sure you guys are comfortable with the assessments part. So I'll just leave it open since we're going to be using it like homework, and then you guys can turn everything in like you would for an exam, and I'll have to put a link up for that. But that's a good point, Hannah.
Wait, so we're not turning it in through the submission on Ignithium. You wanted it turned in on Blackboard?
Well, remember, for an exam, you would actually do both.
Okay.
Right? That was my point. So I'll put a little note in Blackboard.
Because you want to see our notes was the point of that.
Yeah.
And so we don't need to take a picture for this one like we would the homework because you already have it, right?
Well, honestly, I would like you to.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Just because we want to do like a mock exam, right? Because or a mock assessment, whatever you want to call it, right? Just because, going through the practice of doing it the way that you would do it will familiarize you so that when you have your assessment, you're not like, if there's any point of it that you forget. But yeah, okay. So I might.
Professor, quick question. Could you just reiterate what exactly we have to do? Because I was kind of confused, like from previously till now. Like I thought, like I just want to know, like, are we gonna submit this as homework? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. So let me do this for a minute. Okay. I'm gonna stop sharing, and then I'll do. Oh. Okay. Okay. So now I'll do a new share. Share. Okay. Create new announcement. Homework for September 14th. So you guys can see the announcement, right? I'm typing it as we speak.
Yeah.
Okay. Dear student, please complete the Ignithium sample assessment with code 3250 by Monday, September 14th, 11:59 p.m. Okay. Successful completion means 1, answering all questions on Ignithium under the sample assessment. 2, uploading the questions and your documented work to turn it in. Okay, did I leave anything out? I can
No,
edit.
but I did have a question.
Okay, I didn't leave anything out. That's good. Not date restricted. Send copy of the announcement now. I will say one thing, just for those who are slackers. Note, if you are not properly registered and subscribed to Micro 2, then you need to do that first. Okay. Okay, so we submitted that, and okay, go ahead and ask the question.
So for the homework, you normally would like announce it at the beginning of the week, and we'd have like a whole week to do it. But for like assessments, we'd have like an hour. Is it okay if the work is not like
perfect? Yeah. Well, see,
okay.
yeah. Anyway, for this, I'm leaving even though I would be able to see the timestamps for you guys, the assessment is going to be open until then. So, if you wanted to take more than an hour or do things more slowly, I don't have a problem with that because this is just homework. It's not an assessment. There's no reason to hurry, right?
No, but future assessments would be timed, right?
Yeah, exactly. And okay, there is a good point here, and we should probably talk about it later on. It's a documentation issue, and he who documents the best, she who documents the best wins. And that's just life. So you have to be judicious, and there'll be certain things that I ask you to do, and I'll be explicit at the beginning. Like some of my assessments, like the next one that you guys are going to take, I'll actually ask you as part of a question that'll be evaluated to draw a diagram, and the diagram will be based on what you have going on in Ignithium, but we'll be talking about price ceilings and price floors in a little while and the rest of it. Some students just don't do a good job of that. You want to try to work on it. It's something that's important. That being said, if you document like excessively and run out of time, that's bad too. So you want to kind of balance it out a little bit. But rarely have I ever had the case where students haven't had enough time to do an adequate job of documenting their work. So on that aspect, you have to kind of trust that I'm going to be reasonable, and I'm not going to give you something that for the average student they wouldn't have time to document properly. Okay, so I hope that helps. But I mean, you're right to be concerned. I don't want to give you the impression that like, oh yeah, like you don't have to document, like whatever, because honestly, I care more about your documentation. And if somebody puts in a perfect answer and they have no documentation for it, they won't get any points. Okay. So yeah, you've got to do both pieces. But that being said, I mean, obviously I understand you guys are under some time pressure, and I don't, expect that everything is extensively documented, just well enough so that I can understand where your answers were coming from. So some people do better than that than others do. But anyway, so I just added this Ignithium sample assessment there. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing, and then I'll do a new, oh, hold on, wait a minute. And then I'll do a screen share. Okay. All right. So is everybody good? Do you guys have any other questions for me? Questions? Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to log out of this, and you guys should follow me, all right? And then I'm going to go here under scores. And just so you guys know, it's open right now. and I got to log in here with the same thing that I use for the assessments login. Okay, and then it'll say welcome student. So you guys can see that, right? Is everybody with me?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm going to select assessments and hit select. Oh, right. And then notice on the drop down all of the possible assessments I could take. And by the way, these are just general labels. So a lot of times, like the first one I think we are going to take is like, I think I have quiz 1 and then like quiz 5 or quiz 6 or whatever, but they're all the same. They're like, you know, a certain section of the class, and you know, we move on. So don't let the labels fool you. But right now we're on sample, and then hopefully you guys can see everything that I can see, right? And it has this timestamp, and yeah, so, and what you guys will notice about the timestamp is the server here is in Texas. So even though we're on California time, so if you want to know what time you submitted something, I mean, it'll all be in the right order, but you know, there's just like an hour difference between us and Texas, but it depends upon, you know, whether or not it's daylight savings time. But the point is that you can see when you made your first submission, and you know, like I could tell when you logged on, and your first submission, your last submission, and things like that. But let's go ahead and go through these in order, right? So for the first one, this is the one where we it took my 99999 and made it into a 10 million. I guess that's okay. So for question 1, I got 0 credit, but this is the one where, again, things were funny. So, and in question number 2, notice that here's the date stamp and the time stamp. So that was my first submission. This is the same question, question 2, and I submitted this later, and then there's the last one that I submitted, right? So notice my first answer, this is, it says user response. That's what I put in, and this is the credited response. This is the correct answer, right? There's a point, but then I changed my answer, and now it's no longer the right answer, and I get 0, right? The only one that I will count for your guys' purposes, it's not like the best of, it's the last one that you submit for that question. So, you know, it's just like it is on an exam. You know, whatever you would write down last is what you'd get scored. If you cross something out on a blue book, I don't read it. And it doesn't count for scoring purposes. So, and here's question number 3. And I got that one wrong. Okay. And question number 4, and I got that one wrong. Question number 5, I got right. But then I answered question 5 again, and I got it wrong. Okay. So the issue is, if I want to count up how many I got correct, I've got to do it. And I decided to have the data be comprehensive, because I just thought if I was taking an exam, I wouldn't want the system to only show me what it thought was my last recorded answer. I would rather like to know that, yeah, it captured everything that I did while I was taking an exam, because this is for points. So, however, if I do that and I ask it to do a comprehensive report, I have that option, but that means that you guys have to count up for yourselves what was your last answer for each question and whether or not you got it right or not. Okay. So if you do this, when you do the Ignithium assessments, and by the way, I normally will release this information to you guys, not on the day of the exam, but like, you know, the day after or something like that. But pretty soon. Sometimes I even release it the same day, you know, after everything's been collected and the rest of it. But you'll be able to go on, and if you, like I said, do a sensible job of interpreting this information, you'll be able to, you know, quickly estimate what your grade is. Okay. And, you know, the other part of it is, you're in that situation, your grade, that's probably your max grade. The reason why I say that is that if it turns out that you know, your documentation is inadequate, you know, for some reason you didn't write down anything and you just put an answer in, then your score might be lower. In this case, there's no partial credit. So you've got to document your answers, but there's not the case that, you know, you get like a half a point if, you know, you did, you know, some, you know, error in the calculation someplace or something like that. So the other part where there will be points available that you won't show on Ignithium is when I ask you guys to draw a diagram, then that diagram will be worth points. And, you know, I'll score those later and let you know what it's worth, you know, how you did. But you can do a good preliminary estimate pretty quickly based on the information you get back. Okay. So I guess at this point in time, I'll ask you guys, I'll stay logged in here for a minute. Do you guys have any questions about this? Questions? No questions? Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna wonder if, or I was gonna ask. I'm just gonna try and break it down real quick. So we start an assessment right off the bat. We should print it out.
Yeah, and you know, actually, it's probably okay if you do that at the conclusion of the hour. The questions aren't going to change or anything like that. It's not like you're going to lose access to it. So it's probably, you know, better to open it up and then start working on it. And then when there's the close of the time where you can make submissions, when I'm like, okay, time's up, last submissions, you know, I won't count anything that's submitted, you know, after, you know, this timestamp, then, you know, I'll give you guys like, you know, 15 minutes or whatever to like compile your document and then upload it to turn it in. And probably at that point in time, that's when you want to do your screenshots and put everything together. Because honestly, it doesn't really matter to me at that point in time, because your work in your documentation has to, you know, match the work or the questions on Ignithium and your answers there. So it's not like at that point in time that you could do anything other than put your document together. So the fact that, you know, you would either have, you know, 15 minutes or a half hour or an hour to submit your documents doesn't really matter to me, because there's like little chance that you could like goof around.
Right.
Know.
So you'd submit them all on Ignithium, and then you'd recommend, you know, screenshotting or printing it out and then just showing all our work real quick, scanning it and submitting it on Blackboard
Yeah.
within like 15 minutes, 30 or whatever.
Yeah, and I suppose the only thing, and honestly, I'm not overly concerned about this. I mean, we have to make it a reasonable period of time, but I think that like a half hour would probably be okay with me. Because it's not like what's the alternative, right? Like you submitted that answer, it's in Ignithium, and maybe you want to take some time to clean up your documentation. I don't think that really I would really care about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like obviously I want everybody to get their own questions and their own answers. That's the reason why the system is the reason why I like this system, because it gives the random questions. But and I think that encourages students to do their own work. It's not like you can text, Joe and say, hey, how can I, what did you get for number 13? And he'll text you back, oh yeah, hey buddy, I got 40. And you can put that in because yours is not going to be 40. So it's not going to matter. And it's not like you get points for the right documentation to the wrong answer. So, as long as you're spending some time like cleaning up your documentation so I can see clearly how you calculated your stuff, I mean, that seems fine to me. So yeah, so I would say that we'll kind of play this by ear a little bit, but if you guys would rather have, a half hour instead of 15 minutes to submit your stuff, on Turnitin, then I think that's fine.
And then one other question. Before we got into the assessment, we had to do the little like register thing in the corner.
Yeah.
Is that just the one time, or should we register right before every single?
No. Once you're registered for assessments, you're registered, and like I said to everybody before, the registration password is open, so you guys can take a picture of it because you want to remember that. And so like you guys will see now, since you're going to do this for homework, because if I log out, and maybe you didn't see this before, but if I log out and I go back to assessments, and then like it says I'm logged out here, and then I log back in, then it'll take me back to that same page, if I put in the same assessment code, 3250, and I'm not going to do it just because, but yeah, once you're registered, you're registered, and you want to remember your password. It's really important because, like I said, if it doesn't give you back the and I don't know if I can kind of trick it or not to do something goofy, but okay, yeah. So notice I'm logged out. I never logged in, and now I start to answer questions.
You're not actually getting any submissions.
And then it'll say, oh, please log in. It doesn't say submitted. It says, please log in, register to earn points, right? Blah, blah. So I know I'm logged out. And this can happen sometimes in the middle of an exam. So one of the things that might be nice, it just depends on you. I mean, I would say 90% of the students never have any trouble, but sometimes during exams and things like that, people get a little bit panicked because they only have an hour, and they forget their password and like this crazy stuff. So you guys want to put like a little cheat sheet, prepare yourself so that you're comfortable, and then just know if it logs you out, you just log back in and you put in the code and you'll be fine. But if you're taking the exam and you ever see this, instead of, remember when we were logged in, it said submission recorded. If you ever see this feedback instead of submission recorded, you know that you're not logged in. So you got to go back and log in and then put your answer in again. And if you ever worry like, oh, I'm not sure if I answered question 3, if you got your answer right there, just put it in again. There's no harm as long as it's the same answer, because you just scored against the last answer you put in. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps a lot. And then, so if we do get like logged out, or I've noticed that if you're typing in an answer and you press enter, it'll take you to just, at least
Yeah,
on mine, to like a blank screen.
yeah, they want you to click the submit button.
All right. So if we do end up getting like logged out or whatever, it's not the end of the world. We could just, log back in and
Yeah,
it'll be all saved as if we.
yeah, and I don't know if you noticed, but the same thing happened to me. I was doing this, so I put in the answer like 4, 5, 6, whatever, and then I hit enter. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
and then so I just do the back, right? And this is Safari. So, and I'm still back there, and I'm back at the same page. And before it took me back and it kept me logged in. But if it logs you out when you do that, then yeah, just log in again. And if you're ever getting a situation where you think something's like goofy, then just log out. So like sometimes it's like stuck in between. I don't know. Just log out and then log back in, and you should be fine.
All right. It just won't, stop our assessment or
No.
cancel us. All right.
No. And it's not like, and honestly, like I can't monitor what you're doing at home. It's one of those things where, it's not like it locks down the browser or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, didn't really like think that feature was particularly desirable. But you know, you have a time limit. So, if you really don't know what's going on, to do it all and in a short period of time get the right answers, it's going to be hard. So I would, suggest you guys do a lot of practice. That's what all the successful students in the past have done. They've done a lot of practice, and they participate regularly in our early morning sessions, and those are the people that end up with the best grades in the class. And if you're trying to skate by with just a C, be careful because it's easy to end up with a grade that you didn't want to get. So anyway, the normal thing, go Broncos, good faith effort. So work hard, do well. Okay, you guys good? Does anybody have any final questions for me? Because I think we're out of time. Okay. Hey, you guys, my pleasure, and have fun, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Bye.
Professor?
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a question for the next class. Could you send me the Zoom link?
It's the same one as last time.
You didn't send me one for Tuesday.
Oh, didn't I thought I did send you one and you were there. No?
No, I wasn't there on Tuesday. I didn't get the Zoom link.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I tried to email you like right after the class began, and
I didn't.
And I thought you got it.
I didn't see. I haven't seen.
Well, anyway, I'll send it to you again really quickly.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna try to use that same Zoom link for the rest of the semester.
Okay.
There's a way to do repeated meetings and stuff like that, and I didn't set it up that way in the beginning on Zoom, but now I'm doing that. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to check on that.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Take care.
Okay. Thank you.